Considered to be one of the greatest 3D fighters ever made, Tekken 5, as well as Dark Resurrection, are true classics that really need no introduction. DR is so good in fact that people have started playing it over Tekken 8 at my locals. After gazing upon that beautiful early 2000s character select screen, I couldn't help but be taken aback by its newcomers. Many of these fighters have become series staples, gaining all sorts of crazy new tricks and moves as the games have progressed, but I wanted to go back to basics and examine their original iterations. Before we enter the King of Iron Fist proper, there are some details I would first like to make clear. I'm recording footage from Dark Resurrection's PS3 port as it's the easiest game for me to capture. Characters who take on the mantle of earlier fighters aren't technically newcomers, so they won't be included, and I'm getting most of my information from the Waifu Wiki website. This is a very helpful resource that covers all sorts of Tekken games, and I would recommend checking it out if you're interested. I couldn't have made this video without their reporting. Without further delay, let's explore the newcomers of Tekken 5. For those who missed playing as Jun Kazama back in the olden days and worried that her playstyle would never return, Asuka is here to put those fears to rest. Primarily a defensive fighter, Asuka excels at punishing opponents who recklessly approach from head-on through sabaki and keep-out tools. 1+2 is a safe mid launcher, down 3+4 is a counter-hit launcher that low crushes and is also safe, down back 3 swipes at enemies who aren't watching their legs, and back 3 has built-in evasive properties while allowing for follow-ups. Should one of these attacks connect, she can confirm into a full combo route from pretty much anywhere on the screen, even from a low parry. If the other player mistimes a strike and is left vulnerable, Asuka's Forward 2 is an amazing whiff punishment tool, so much so that it's become an iconic part of her identity and just the series as a whole now. Back 1+3 is an important reversal, as it lets her transform a defensive situation into one where she's the aggressor. This is a wonderful momentum shift that's a crucial part of gaining ground when up close. Also, none of Asuka's crucial moves or combos require expert execution. You don't have to learn perfect electrics, just frames, or a general unorthodox playstyle, as she's relatively straightforward. The more reserved you can play, the better. This comes with some downsides however, as her offensive capabilities leave much to be desired, and experienced players with strong matchup knowledge will be able to exploit her weaknesses. Many crucial attacks are minus or straight up launch punishable on block or whiff, leaving Asuka disadvantageous for making very simple mistakes. Stand jab is the most obvious example, being -1 on block. Punishment options aren't great either, as the enemy isn't risking much at -10 through 14. Asuka can only launch punish at -15 onwards, preventing her from doing big damage against common pokes and advancement tools. This may seem a little bit counterintuitive to her overtly defensive strategy, but I assume the developers wanted Asuka players to engage in active defense over a more passive style of play. With that said, even a strategy of constant movement and mind games can always be blown up, as she doesn't have a move that defines a match's pacing. If Asuka has to battle another defensive-focused fighter who can stay out of her way, she has to apply pressure by using moves that were never designed for this purpose. For those of you who love making hard reads and shifting into 6th gear in an instant, Asuka might be right up your alley. One wrong move on the opponent's part is all it takes for her to take control with some wince-inducing damage. Taking after his father, the pointy-haired Kazuya Mishima, Jin Kazama first hit the scene in Tekken 3. But after receiving a new fighting style in the sequel, many fans were left wondering if his old Mishima-style karate would ever return. Well, after entering his edgy phase during the interim between Tekken 4 and 5, Jin's Devil Gene became fully activated, bringing back many old moves in the process. Devil Jin's gameplay represents a style that fans had sorely missed since the late 90s, one revolving around being an ultra-high-tier jack-of-all-trades. Devil Jin has insane mix-ups, damage, wall pressure, punishment tools, mind games, and a sick pair of genes, so you know he's a force to be reckoned with. Jokes aside, it's possible for him to make the enemy scramble from a variety of angles, as his Swiss Army knife of a move list can cover all sorts of ranges. Back 1 is a mid poke that leads to crouch dash pressure, up forward 4 is a safe advancing mid that guarantees a follow-up down back 2 on hit, down forward 1 is a standard poke with a follow-up, down forward 2 is a counter-hit launcher, replacing the backswing blow he had in vanilla Tekken 5. All 3 hits of his laser cannon are safe. Down 3 is a simple low poke, albeit one that's minus on hit. Hell Sweep is a deadly low that serves as a cornerstone of his mix-up potential. The Electric Wind God Fist is as strong as ever, resulting in all sorts of punish and combo situations. Can is an easy 15 frame launcher for when you can't punish with an electric. Forward Forward 2 and 1-1-2 both wall splat, and he has a complete throw game. It doesn't matter what type of grab you do, Devil Jin can eliminate huge chunks of the opponent's life bar in the blink of an eye. Obliteration is my favorite, as not only does it defy gravity, but it allows for a guaranteed down back too. Outside of these obviously extremely good qualities, Devil Jin's dependence on consistently clean execution can lead to newer players having a hard time playing him to his full potential. He also lacks safe mid launches, but to be honest, this shouldn't be a huge downside. Any sort of con or minor drawback or whatever you want to call it that you can find within Devil Jin's move list is easily squashed by all the pros he has to offer, and even after spending an afternoon doing research, I'm still mind blown over how effective he is. Someone on the balancing team must have been a big Devil Jin fan. When I started learning Tekken properly way back in high school, my favorite character was always Sergey Dragunov. His silent demeanor and plethora of Russian martial arts techniques tickled my brain in all the right places, with his power levels only increasing as time went on. In the beginning though, poor Dragunov was exceptionally weak, lacking many strong tools that we now take for granted in modern entries. As an aggressive fighter, Sergey wants to utilize advancing strikes that allow him to stick to the enemy like glue. He has countless highs, mids, lows, reversals, throws, and solid mobility tools to keep the opponent in check, feeling endlessly satisfying if you're able to maintain pressure. Down forward 4 is a long-range mid poke, up forward 4 is a stylish low-crushing orbital that guarantees a juggle, and back 1+2 is a safe mid that leaves him +3. After the initial thrill wears off, however, you'll realize just how slow he feels in Dark Resurrection when compared to future games. The sluggish startup, recovery, and very poor tracking on many key moves leaves Dragunov open to counter hits, leading to the act of applying basic pressure in neutral, carrying significant risk. Most of his attacks are either neutral, minus, or unsafe on block, forcing him back on the defensive if they fail to connect. Down forward 1, down 2, sneak follow-ups, and while running 2 come to mind, especially the latter. In Tekken 6 onwards, you can input this move from around mid-range to preemptively strike the enemy from a distance, but in Tekken 5, its range is almost non-existent. You have to be right up close for the punch to connect, and thanks to how linear it is, any player can easily step to either side and demolish you. Forward 3 pressure found in future games is also AWOL, as the developers didn't think to allow for stance cancels on hit or block. 4-1 is gone, 4-3 is gone, and down forward 1-4 is gone too. 15 frame down forward 2 and while rising 2 are his fastest launches, being punishable themselves, with magic 4 and back 3 counter hit launches also failing to keep him advantageous on block. Frame data aside, I'm pretty sure that even those with little Dark Resurrection knowledge can notice just how lethargic Sergey's movements are. Once you become familiar with the matchup and can quickly recognize specific strings, it's not hard to react to their extensions. Hell, many of them end in highs, allowing for full punishes. For a character built around rapid mobility and pure unbridled aggression, his slow animations are quite counterintuitive, but at the end of the day, I'll always love Dragunov. He has some of the most brutal, bone-crushing animations in the series, and they never get old. Feng, where do I begin with you? Seriously, where do I begin? I've never played as him before, and I don't know why you're so angry. After watching old tournament footage and studying his move list on Waifu Wiki, I've come to learn that Feng is an all-rounder with an emphasis on unorthodox pokes and controlling mid to long-range spaces. By using Kenpo's devastating powers, he can combine evasion with aggression to create whiff-punish opportunities, frustrating the enemy to no end. When figuring things out in neutral, Feng's plus on block down forward 1 knocks crouching opponents down, back 4 is a safe tracking mid, back 1 is an 8-frame counter hit tool that's only -10, back 1+2 is a consistent whiff punishment tool, down forward 3 is a safe launching mid, down back 3 and back forward 1 are evasive strikes, and down 2 is a pesky low that receives buffs on counter hit. His standing punishment isn't that bad either, being able to use back 1, 1-3, and back 1+2 for 8, 10, and 13 frame punishes, although crouching punishment is another story. Full crouch down 1 and while standing 4 are 10 and 11 framers, with his next punishes being 15 frame launches. Going back to Feng's stances now, an assortment of highs and mids can be utilized to throw the opponent off their game, with lingering shadows landslide serving as a quick low. Using stances to scare those who aren't familiar with the matchup is part of how Feng can run his offense without being interrupted, but this gets trickier when the enemy knows what to look out for. Combine that with his aforementioned lackluster crouch block punishes, and trying to crack through a hardened defensive shell isn't the easiest thing in the world. If he's unable to get the ball rolling, Feng can try to use his numerous reversals to thwart incoming pressure, but this is obviously very risky. If you're aware that he only has highs and mids out of Shifting Clouds and Deceptive Step, you'll never mistakenly block low, and with enough practice, you can recognize these unsafe lows out of stance. Despite his flaws, Feng was very popular in high-level play, and there's no shortage of old-school Evo videos on YouTube that demonstrate how powerful he can be. He hasn't missed a game since vanilla Tekken 5, so for those of you who love using Kenpo steps and quirky pokes, I don't think you're in trouble of losing your character anytime soon. As the Herculean final boss of Dark Resurrection, Jinpachi Mishima is the clan's eldest member, appearing in only 2 games before being thrown to the wayside. Although his playable counterpart is somewhat toned down from vanilla Tekken 5's boss iteration, he can't be used online and is banned from tournament play. Yeah, he's pretty strong in DR. Now that's not to say that Jinpachi is flawless, what with his lows being unsafe and reactable, but I'd be lying if I said that he wasn't a force to be reckoned with. In my view, the most interesting of Jinpachi's qualities is how he lacks traditional Mishima techniques. Despite being the literal grandfather of these maneuvers, he lacks a 1-1-2 hit confirm and hell sweep, he doesn't have an electric motion, instead being his standard downfall 2, and there's not a drop of wave dash pressure to be found. For those expecting a fighter similar to Kazuya or Heihachi, not having these tools may feel somewhat strange, but Jinpachi more than makes up for it with his poking, combo game, and overall ease of use. Even without years of experience under my belt, it's not hard to melt life bars with repeated pokes and staple combos, especially when you've got the enemy at the wall. Back 2 covers great distances and can catch tech roll attempts. Down forward 1+2 isn't a mid like in Tekken Tag 2, but it does leave the enemy dumbfounded if they block it. Down forward 2 is a 14 frame launcher that leads to gigantic damage while only being -10, and his mid pokes travel nearly half screen, sometimes setting up for launches. Down back 4 is a long range low that's +17 on hit, guaranteeing a mix-up attempt, so that's pretty cool too. If all of this wasn't crazy enough, not only can Jinpachi ground bounce the opponent and shoot out massive fireballs like a Marvel vs. Capcom character, but he can launch projectiles while knocked down and even astral project towards you. An obvious flaw of Jinpachi is that his most egregious tools and tech traps have easily reactable startup and flight paths, making them challenging to utilize against experienced opponents. If you understand the tools he'll use to cover space at specific angles, there will be ways for you to beat them out and remain safe. Look, if I had all the time in the world, I would love to go super in-depth about how busted the rest of his toolkit is, but the bottom line is that there's a reason why Jinpachi is banned. If you ever want to troll your friends in casual play, the Mishima Elder should be your go-to. Hailing from Monaco, which I can't say I've seen in another fighting game, Lili is a graceful fighter who sneaks away from her worrisome father to do battle against sword-wielding alien creature things. Being one of the series' youngest combatants, she's full of energy, boasting multiple stances and some incredible acrobatics. Additionally, Lili's execution requirements and overall strategy are on the simpler side, making her the perfect choice for beginners. Evasion is the name of the game here, as not only are her sidesteps incredible, but many attacks have built-in movement. Using a plus on block down forward 1 to keep the enemy in check before attacking from unexpected angles is how you can condition the enemy to back up and defend. At this point, you can enter Feisty Rabbit or Mirror Image and utilize their mid and low follow-ups to keep them guessing. Back 1 is a mid counter hit launcher that's plus on block, quarter circle forward 1 is a mid launcher with built-in evasion, forward 4 is a low that's only -11, 1-2-3 is a 10 frame punish, and you can hit confirm forward 2 into 1+2 on counter hit for extra damage. Combos are another of Lili's strengths, as they're quite simple to perform. You can begin these from a variety of attacks, and they only consist of simple strings, making them challenging to mess up. At this point, she might seem like the most perfect Tekken character who ever made it out of Bandai Namco's pizza oven, but there are some relevant weaknesses I have to mention. Firstly, her punishment is far from ideal. Her fastest launcher is a 15 frame hop kick, so characters who are -14 or below aren't risking a whole lot. The best she'll be able to do here is 1+2 or back to 1, and as she lacks crouching punishes from -12 to 14, she's even worse here. Also, remember how I said that Lili's sidestep is really strong? Well, many of her strikes are linear themselves, allowing the opponent to easily move out of the way. Combine this with slow counter hit options, and she has to guarantee that the enemy won't step, lest they launch her into oblivion. In my mind, Lili is one of the best choices for those still learning Tekken's basics and aren't yet ready to jump into its more technical concepts. And if you do understand these, well, that's just the cherry on top of the sundae, as you'll do a better job of applying her mix-ups and unexpected shifts in trajectory when your opponent least expects it. She moves fast, hits hard, and looks pretty cool, so how could you go wrong? Without a doubt, I think Raven is one of the coolest fighting game characters I've ever seen. He's like if Wesley Snipes' blade mastered magical ninjutsu. Need I go on? Unlike other fighters, where we can cleanly place them into specific archetypes, Raven's flexible move list allows him to switch up his strategy on the fly. You can rush down and utilize a unique crouch dash and back turn stance for mix-ups. You can hang back in mid-range and focus on poking the enemy, causing them to become frustrated and recklessly act on impulse, or you can style on your opponent as a counter-hit demon. Back turn is incredibly important, as without it, Raven leaves so much pressure on the table. There's a full set of highs, mids, lows, strings, and even teleportation within this stance, with the goal being to scare the enemy into submission. The longer they refrain from fighting back, the better chance Raven has to loop pressure for as long as he can. Upon landing a counter hit, you'll want to route into his forward 4-3 combos. By keeping the enemy in a very close range juggle state, Raven can loop this move until he reaches a wall, piling on even more damage. The timing required for these combos takes some getting used to, but as they can lead to touch of deaths, it's definitely worth the effort. He can even perform a wall splat infinite too. Man, he's cool. Even without these routes, Raven's damage output is very high, so he's a legitimate threat from pretty much anywhere on the screen. Forward 2 is a lunging mid that's only -10, but with how severe the pushback is, I wouldn't be surprised if many characters lack ways to punish our ninja friend. Unlike, say, Dragunov, for example, who loves to utilize plus frames on key moves to maintain momentum, at least when he can, many of Raven's key moves are minus, preventing him from bullying experienced players. Coupled with his counter hit options being a bit on the slower side, and his lack of a magic 4, it means that Raven has to take big risks when attempting high damage strikes. Punishment is arguably his weakest quality, lacking any sort of launcher until -16. -9, 12, and 13 punishes simply don't exist in his toolkit, forcing him to rely on an 8-frame 1-2 or 11-frame standing 4 for standing punishes, with full crouch down forward 1, and while standing 4 being his respective 10 and 11-frame crouching punishes. If he's not dictating the pace of the match through mix-ups and slippery ninja techniques, Raven is kind of forced to play second fiddle. Weaknesses aside, he's a well-designed fighter with a beautiful visual design. Even though I can't play him to save my life, I always get excited to see Raven appear in new Tekken games, as it just isn't the same without him. Unlike my videos about Street Fighter's newcomers, where I have to research countless oddballs and it takes weeks, I'm so glad that Tekken 5 doesn't have that many. What it lacks in quantity, it more than makes up for in quality, as every one of these fighters brings something truly special to the table, even if they're banned for being a bit too broken. Out of all of the fighters we looked at so far, Dragunov, Lili, and Raven are easily my favorites, with the former having my favorite gameplay. There's no getting around the fact that he sucks butt, but come on dude, this is so brutal. Learning more about them all was really good fun, and I would like to once again thank WaivuWiki for being a brilliant collection of Tekken goodness. All the frame data information I've been listing throughout the video comes from their individual character pages, making it the go-to spot for those interested in older Tekken data. Before we wrap up, I'll ask you to let me know who your favorite newcomer is in the comments. I would love to read your thoughts and unique perspectives about how these newcomers operate, and maybe you have some cool memories with them or something. Let me know. Okay, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you and your time, and I hope you had fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.